It's our stories. Welcome to a world where real stories sounds like a movie script.
Have you ever looked into the eyes of the people who gave you life to tell them that their time is up? I was kicked out at 16, left to survive among drug addicts and filth while they lived in warmth and comfort. Years later, they crawled back to me on their knees, begging me to pay for an operation that would save their lives. My answer made my whole family curse me, but I don't regret a single second. Listen carefully, because this story is not about forgiveness.
I didn't pull a trigger. I didn't slip poison into his drink. I didn't even touch him. I simply sat in my Herman Miller chair in my climate-controlled office overlooking the city skyline, and I said the word no. And watching the life drain out of his hope was the most satisfying moment of my entire existence. They call me a monster on Twitter right now. The hashtags are trending. Hashtag ungrateful son. Hashtag heartless. They say, how could you let your own dad die over money when you have millions? They don't know. They see the suit, the car, the bank account. They don't see the 16-year-old boy shivering in a dumpster fighting a raccoon for a half-eaten bagel. They don't see the scars on my back. Sit down. Put your phone away. I'm going to tell you the truth. And by the end of this, you won't be asking why I did it. You'll be asking why I didn't do it sooner. My name is Mark. I am 32 years old, and my life officially began the day my parents decided to end it. To understand the hate, you have to understand the love. My parents were pillars of the community, the kind of people who ironed their underwear. My father was a deacon at the church. My mother ran the charity bake sales. Our lawn was manicured to within an inch of its life. We were the poster family for the American dream. But behind the closed doors of our pristine two-story colonial house, it was a regime. It wasn't physically abuse, not at first. It was psychological warfare. Every mistake was a sin. A B- in math wasn't just a grade, it was a reflection of a lazy spirit. Forget to take out the trash? That was defiance against God's order. I was the mistake. I was the stain on their white carpet. I liked loud music. I questioned the sermons. I had a messy room. Normal teenager stuff, right? Not to them. To them, I was a project that was failing. The end came on Tuesday, November 14th. I'll never forget the date because it was the day the heating in our house broke, and my father was already in a foul mood. I had been caught. Not with drugs, not with a gun. I was caught with a girl. We were in the basement, watching a movie. We fell asleep on the couch, fully clothed. Nothing happened, but my mother came down to do laundry at 6 a.m. and found us. The scream she let out sounded like she'd seen a murder. Within 10 minutes, the girl was chased out of the house crying. Within 20 minutes, my father was home from his morning run. He didn't yell. That's what people don't get. Real hate isn't loud. Real hate is quiet. It's cold. He sat at the kitchen table drinking his coffee. He looked at me with eyes that were completely dead. There was no anger, just removal, like he was looking at a broken toaster he was about to throw in the trash. "We're done," he said. "Dad, nothing happened," I pleaded. My hands were shaking. "We just fell asleep." "You have brought shame into this house for the last time," my mother said, her back to me, scrubbing a pot that was already clean. "You are corrupt, you are willful, and we will not let you poison the air we breathe anymore." "Go pack," my father said. "Pack? For what? Am I going to Grandma's?" He took a sip of coffee. "No, you're leaving. You're 18 in 2 years. Consider this an early graduation." "I'm 16, I shouted. "You can't just kick me out." My father stood up. He was a big man back then, towering. He walked over to me and leaned down, his face inches from mine. I could smell the coffee on his breath. "I can do whatever I want in my house," he whispered. "You have 1 hour. Take what you can carry. If you're not out by 8 a.m., I'm calling the police and telling them you threatened your mother. You know the sheriff believes me, Mark. He won't believe the delinquent son." I looked at my mother. "Mom!" She didn't turn around. She just kept scrubbing. Scrub, scrub, scrub. I went to my room. I was in shock. It felt like a dream. I packed a backpack, a hoodie,
3 t-shirts, my sketchbook, a flashlight. I had $42 in a jar on my desk. I took that. I tried to put on my heavy winter coat, the expensive North Face one they bought me for Christmas. My father appeared in the doorway. Put it back. What? That coat cost $300. I paid for it. It stays here. It's freezing outside. Then you should have thought about that before you brought a whore into my house, he said calmly. Put it back. I took off the coat. I put on a thin denim jacket instead. I was trembling, not from cold, but from a terror so deep it felt like my stomach was dissolving. I walked to the front door. They stood in the hallway, watching. Not sad, not angry, just waiting. Here, my father said. He handed me a Bible. This will keep you warmer than a coat if you actually read it. I took it. I don't know why. Maybe I thought there was money inside. There wasn't. I opened the door. The wind hit me instantly. Chicago wind, the kind that cuts through denim like it's paper. Goodbye, Mark, my mother said, softly, like she was saying goodbye to a guest. I stepped out. Click. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home, that sound, it haunts me. It wasn't just a lock turning, it was the sound of a guillotine blade dropping. I stood on the porch for 5 minutes. I knocked. Dad, stop joking. Let me in. It's cold. Silence. I rang the bell. Silence. I looked through the window. They were sitting at the table eating breakfast. My mother was pouring orange juice. They looked peaceful, relieved. That was the moment I died. The boy named Mark died on that porch. Something else walked down the driveway that morning. The first 48 hours were a blur of denial. I walked to the mall. I hung out there until security kicked me out. I bought a burger with my $42. I thought, they'll call me, they'll come looking. They didn't. By night 3, the reality set in. I had no phone, they took it. I had no ID. I had $30 left. And it was night. You think you know what darkness is? You don't. Darkness in the suburbs is terrifying because it's so quiet. Every rustle of a bush sounds like a monster. I found a park. There was a plastic tube slide in the playground. I crawled inside. It smelled like bleach and old leaves. I curled up into a ball, trying to pull my limbs into my torso to conserve heat. My teeth chattered so hard I bit my tongue, filling my mouth with the metallic taste of blood. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I sobbed until my throat was raw. I called out for my mom. I was a child. I wanted my bed. I wanted the warmth. I fell asleep from exhaustion. I woke up because someone was kicking my legs. Hey, get out! A police officer. I scrambled out, blinded by his flashlight. Officer, please, my parents. He don't care about your sob story, kid, he said. No loitering. Residents are complaining about a vagrant. Move along or I take you in. Please take me in, I begged. I have nowhere to go. He looked at me. He saw a teenager in a denim jacket. He softened, just a fraction. Look, kid, if I book you, you go into the system. Foster care, juvenile detention centers, you don't want that. Those places, bad things happen there. Just go to the city. Find a shelter. He got in his car and drove away. He left a 16-year-old boy alone in the middle of the night. So I walked. I walked for hours. My feet went numb. Then they started to burn. I reached the city limits as the sun came up. The city was different. It wasn't quiet. It was loud, dirty, and dangerous. But it had steam grates. I found a vent blowing warm air from a laundry building. It smelled like bleach and dryer sheets. It was heaven. I sat there warming my hands. That's when I met Rat Tooth. He was a homeless guy, maybe 40, maybe 60. Hard to tell. He had 3 teeth and a scar running down his cheek. He walked up to me and kicked my backpack. That's my spot, he croaked. I didn't know, I stammered, grabbing my bag. You got money? He pulled a small, rusty knife from his pocket. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. I have $20, I lied. I had 25. Give it. I gave it to him.
He took it, laughed, and sat down on the grate. "Get lost, tourist!" I walked away. Now I had $5, and I was starving. Hunger isn't just a feeling in your stomach, it's a madness in your brain. After 2 days without real food, you stop thinking about video games or girls. You think about calories. You look at a pigeon and wonder if you could catch it. You look at a half-eaten sandwich in a trash can covered in cigarette ash, and your brain says, "Eat it, just wipe off the ash." And I did. The first time I ate out of the trash, I vomited. My body rejected the shame of it. The second time, I kept it down. The third time, I didn't even hesitate. 2 weeks in, I stopped being human. I was an animal. I was dirty. My hair was matted. I smelled like sweat and garbage. People stopped looking at me. They looked through me. I was part of the pavement. But the worst night, the night that truly forged me into the man I am today, was Christmas Eve. It had been over a month. I was skeletal. I was walking through an upscale neighborhood, looking for anything. A garage left open, a bag of cans to return for deposit. I saw a house, big windows, golden light spilling out onto the snow. I crept into the bushes and looked inside. I saw a family, a mom, a dad, 2 kids. They were sitting by a fireplace. There was a tree with lights. They were opening presents. They were laughing. The dad hugged the son. It looked exactly like my house used to look. I stood in the snow, watching them like a ghost. I was freezing. My fingers were blue. Then the back door opened. The dad came out. He was carrying a plate, leftovers, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes. It steamed in the cold air. My mouth watered. I was ready to beg. I was ready to crawl to his feet. He walked to the edge of the patio and whistled, "Buster, here, boy." A golden retriever ran out. The dad set the plate down on the ground. "Merry Christmas, Buster." The dog started eating the turkey. The dad went back inside and locked the door. I looked at the dog. I looked at the food. The dog growled at me. I didn't care. I grabbed a shovel that was leaning against the wall. I swung it at the dog. I didn't hit him, just scared him off. He yelped and ran. I fell to my knees in the snow. I scooped up the turkey with my bare, filthy hands. It was mixed with dog saliva. It was on the concrete, and I ate it. I shoved the stuffing into my mouth. I gnawed on the bone the dog had been chewing. I ate until the plate was licked clean. As I sat there, chewing on dog food on Christmas Eve, watching a happy family through the window, I made a vow. I swore on my life. I swore on the hell I was living in. I will never be this hungry again. I will never be this weak again. And if I ever see my parents again, I will make them feel this cold. I will make them understand what it's like to be a ghost. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I would. That night, the boy who wanted his mommy finally died completely. And the predator was born. Hate is a powerful fuel. Gasoline burns fast, hate burns forever. It's nuclear. If you had seen me at 18, you wouldn't have recognized the boy from the suburbs. I was lean, scarred, and hard. I had learned that tears get you beaten, but silence gets you ignored. And being ignored was how I survived. I got a job washing dishes at a steakhouse. I lied about my age. I lied about my address. I told the manager I lived 2 blocks away, when in reality I was sleeping in a shelter that smelled like feet and bleach. I worked 16-hour shifts. My hands were permanently wrinkled, raw, and bleeding from the hot water and steel wool. I scrubbed the plates of men who wore suits that cost more than I would make in a year. I watched them. I studied them. I saw how they walked, how they ordered, how they treated the staff like furniture. I realized something. The world doesn't respect goodness. It respects power. And power is just another word for money. I stopped sleeping. Sleep was a waste of time. I worked the dish pit from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Then I went to the 24-hour internet cafe.
I spent my tips on coffee and hourly computer access. I didn't play games. I learned to code. I devoured information. Python, Java, C++. I learned how to build systems. I learned how to break them. While other kids my age were at prom or getting drunk at frat parties, I was building my weapon. By 21, I landed a junior developer job. By 24, I was a lead engineer. By 27, I founded Apex Systems. By 30, we went public. I remember the day the wire transfer hit my account after the IPO. $48 million. I stared at the screen. I waited to feel happy. I waited for the joy. It never came. Instead, I felt a cold, metallic satisfaction. I had built a fortress of gold bricks around myself. No one could ever lock me out again. No one could ever deny me a coat. I bought the penthouse. I bought the cars. I bought the suits, but I never bought a family. I didn't date. I didn't make friends. I had associates, lawyers, and employees. People I could control. People who stayed because I paid them, not because of some bond that could be broken on a Tuesday morning. And then, 3 days ago, the fortress was breached. My assistant, Clara, buzzed me. Her voice was nervous. "Mr. Sterling, there are 2 individuals in the lobby. They don't have an appointment. Security was going to remove them, but they claim to be your parents." I froze. My pen hovered over the contract I was signing. 15 years. 15 years of silence. Not a birthday card, not a "hope you're alive," nothing. "Let them up," I said. "Sir, are you sure? They don't look like they belong here." "Send them up. And Clara, leave the door open. I want witnesses." I spun my chair around to face the floor-to-ceiling windows. I looked out at the city I had conquered. My heart wasn't racing. It was beating slow, heavy thuds, like a war drum. I heard the elevator ding. I heard footsteps on the marble floor. "Mark!" My mother's voice. It sounded older, crackled like dry leaves. I spun the chair around. Time is a cruel artist. The giants of my childhood had shrunk. My father, the terrifying patriarch who once loomed over me like a god of wrath, was a withered old man. He was yellow, jaundiced. He leaned heavily on a cane. His suit was ill-fitting, hanging off his bony frame. My mother looked small. Her hair was gray and thinning. She clutched a cheap handbag with both hands, her knuckles white. They stood in the middle of my office, looking terrified. The luxury intimidated them. The art on the walls, the view, the sheer smell of money. It made them feel small. "Good," I said. "Sit." I didn't stand up. I didn't offer a hand. They sat in the guest chairs. The leather creaked. "You look good, son," my father rasped. His voice was weak. The boom was gone. "I am not your son," I said. My voice was smooth, calm. "I am Mark Sterling, CEO of Apex. You are trespassers. You have 5 minutes before I have security drag you out. Talk." My mother flinched. Tears welled up in her eyes. The same weapon she used when I was a kid. It didn't work anymore. "We missed you, Mark. We looked for you. We prayed for you every Sunday." "Stop," I cut her off. "Don't lie. I hired a private investigator 10 years ago. I know you never filed a missing persons report. I know you told the neighbors I ran away to join a drug gang. I know you turned my bedroom into a sewing room 2 weeks after you kicked me out. So cut the bullshit." My father sighed. He looked defeated. "We made mistakes. We were strict. We thought tough love would straighten you out." "Tough love?" I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "You threw a 16-year-old onto the street in November with $40. That's not tough love. That's attempted murder." "We are here to make amends," my mother cried. "No, you're not." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the mahogany desk. "You're here because you need something. I can smell the desperation on you. It smells like cheap mothballs and fear. What is it? Foreclosure? Gambling debts? What? My father looked down at his hands. It's my liver. Liver failure, my mother whispered. He needs a transplant, immediate, or he dies within 3 months. I looked at my father. I looked at his yellow skin, the shaking hands. And let me guess, I said, insurance won't cover it. They denied the claim. Pre-existing condition. Some bureaucratic nonsense. We need to pay out of pocket for the surgery and the private specialist. The public list is too long. I'll die before my name comes up. How much? $200,000, my mother said. She looked at me with hope. Disgusting, naked hope. To start, there will be recovery costs, maybe another 50. 200,000, I repeated. You have it, she pleaded. We saw the magazine articles. We know you're worth millions. Mark, please. He's your father. He gave you life. You can't put a price on family. I stared at them. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 20. I stood up and walked over to the wet bar in the corner of the office. I poured myself a glass of sparkling water. I said, my back to them. I remember a specific night. It was Christmas Eve, 2009.
I turned around. I was starving. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. I was watching a house just like ours used to be. And I watched a father feed his dog a plate of turkey. My mother looked confused. Mark, what are you talking about? I ate that turkey, I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper. I ate dog food off the concrete because I was so hungry I was hallucinating. And do you know what I thought about while I was chewing on that gristle? I walked closer to them. I loomed over them now. I thought about the coat, I said to my father. The North Face jacket. You made me take it off. You said I paid for it. It stays here. Do you remember that, Dad? My father looked up. His eyes were wide. Fear. Genuine fear. It was a lesson, he stammered. Well, here is my lesson to you, I said. I went back to my desk. I opened a drawer. I pulled out a checkbook. My mother gasped. She thought she had won. She thought the check was coming. I wrote on the check. I ripped it out. I walked around the desk and held it out to my father. He reached for it, his shaking hand grasping at salvation. He looked at the check. His face went pale, then red. What is this? He choked. The check was made out for 000. In the memo line, I had written, for the coat. You want me to pay for your life? I asked. But Dad, that money belongs to me. I earned it. Why should I spend my resources on a failed investment? You devil, my mother hissed. The tears stopped instantly. The mask fell off. You ungrateful, hateful little bastard. We raised you. We fed you. And then you discarded me, I snapped. You broke the contract. You don't get to invoke the family clause when it suits you. I am going to die, my father shouted, struggling to stand up. He waved his cane at me. I am going to die, and it will be your fault. You will have my blood on your hands. No, I smiled, a cold, shark-like smile. Your blood is failing on its own. I'm just choosing not to buy you new blood. There's a difference. I pressed the intercom button. Security, escort the trash out. You will rot in hell, my mother screamed as 2 large guards entered the room. I curse you! I curse you, Mark! Get in line, I said, turning my back on them to look out the window. I heard the struggle. I heard my father cursing. I heard the elevator doors close. I stood there, looking at the city. I felt a vibration in my pocket. I took a sip of my water. I expected to feel guilty. That's what they tell you in movies, right? The protagonist feels a pang of regret. I felt nothing. Actually, that's a lie. I felt light, like a heavy coat had finally been taken off my shoulders. But I made a mistake. I underestimated them. I thought shaming them in private was enough. I didn't know they were going to go to the press. I didn't know they were going to declare war. And I definitely didn't know about the insurance policy.
I thought the check for $0 was the end. I was naive. By 8 p.m. that night, my face was on every local news feed in Chicago. The headline? Tech billionaire abandons dying father. My mother had gone straight to the press. She was good, I'll give her that. She played the role of the grieving, confused saint perfectly. She wore a rosary. She cried on camera. She told the reporter, "We just want to save my husband. We don't understand why Mark hates us. We love him so much." They launched a GoFundMe. The goal was $200,000. Within 4 hours, it hit $50,000. Not because people loved them, but because people hated me. Social media is a sewer. I sat in my penthouse watching the notifications roll in like a tsunami of sewage. @Mark Sterling is a monster. I hope his company crashes. Someone should find where he lives. My PR team was blowing up my phone. "Mark, we need to issue an apology. We need to pay. The stock is taking a hit in after-hours trading. The board is nervous." I turned off my phone. I wasn't going to apologize. I wasn't going to pay. I was going to burn the whole narrative down. I set up a tripod in my living room. No professional lighting, no script. Just me, a plain black t-shirt, and the truth. I hit record. "My name is Mark Sterling," I said to the lens, "and today I was asked to pay for the life of a man who tried to end mine." I didn't hold back. I told them everything. I told the world about the coat. I told them about the night I called home begging for help, and they hung up. I told them about the dog food on Christmas Eve. I told them about the sexual predator I had to fight off with a screwdriver in a subway station when I was 17, a situation I was in because my loving parents had locked me out. I spoke for 20 minutes. My voice didn't shake. I wasn't crying. I was presenting evidence in the court of public opinion. Then came the kill shot. "You want to know where my money is going?" I asked the camera. "I am holding a cashier's check for $200,000. I held it up. "I am donating this tonight, not to the man who threw me away like garbage, but to the Chicago Youth Homeless Alliance. This money will buy coats, hot meals, and safe beds for the kids that parents like mine leave behind. Dad, if you're watching this, this is your legacy. You didn't get a surgery. You got a shelter named after the son you tried to erase." I uploaded the video. Title, "Why I Let Him Die." I poured a whiskey and waited. The internet is fickle. It loves a villain, but it loves a justice boner even more. Within an hour, the tide turned. The comments on my parents' GoFundMe shifted from support to horror. "You kicked him out at 16? In Chicago? In winter? You people are sick. I want my donation back." I watched their campaign stall. Then I watched it get flagged for fraud. I felt a grim satisfaction. I had won the PR war. But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. At 11:45 p.m., my buzzer rang. "Mr. Sterling," the doorman said, his voice grave. "There are police here. Detective Miller." My stomach dropped. Had they swatted me? Had my mother made up a lie about me hitting her? "Send him up." Detective Miller looked tired. He took off his hat as he entered my apartment. He didn't look like he was there to arrest me. He looked like a man carrying a heavy weight. "Mr. Sterling," he said, "we received a call from your mother." "Let me guess." I swirled my drink. "She says I threatened her?" "No, sir." The detective looked me in the eye. "Your father is dead." The room went silent.
The hum of the refrigerator seemed deafening. "How?" I asked. "He was watching your video," Miller said. "He got very agitated. His blood pressure spiked. He had a massive stroke. He died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital." I stood there. I looked at the city lights. My father was dead, and I had killed him. Not with a gun, with a YouTube video. I had literally spoken him to death. "I see," I said. "Am I being charged with anything?" "No," Miller shook his head. "Being mean isn't a crime, son. Neither is telling the truth. But your mother, she's at General Hospital. She's hysterical. She's screaming that you murdered him. I'd advise you to stay away." "Thank you, Detective." He left. I was alone. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt grief. But all I felt was curiosity. Why did he get so agitated? Was it shame? Was it anger? Or was it something else? I went to my computer. I opened my secure email. My private investigator, a man named Voronov who used to work for the KGB, had sent me a file 3 hours ago. I hadn't opened it yet because I was busy making the video. The subject line was "The Insurance File." I opened it. It was a PDF, scanned documents from 1998. I started reading. And as I read, the whiskey glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. It wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just religious fanaticism. It was a business transaction. My father had a gambling problem. I knew that vaguely. I didn't know the extent. In 1998, he owed $400,000 to loan sharks. He was desperate. 3 months before they kicked me out, he took out a life insurance policy on me. Insured Mark Sterling, minor. Benefit $1.5 million. Rider double indemnity for accidental death. Accidental death. Like freezing to death in a park? Like getting stabbed in a homeless shelter? Like overdosing on the streets? They didn't kick me out to teach me a lesson. They kicked me out because they needed me to die. They needed an accident. That's why they took my coat. That's why they didn't call the police. They were waiting for the phone call from the morgue so they could cash out and pay off the bookies. My father wasn't a strict parent. He was a hitman, and the cold was his weapon.
A sound escaped my throat. A laugh. A dark, jagged laugh that sounded like glass breaking. "You sons of bitches," I whispered. "You absolute sons of bitches." My father got off easy. A stroke was too quick. He deserved to rot. But my mother, she was still alive. She was at the hospital, playing the grieving widow. I grabbed my coat. I wasn't staying away. I was going to finish this. The hospital waiting room was chaos. Reporters, cameras. When I walked in, the room went silent. The flashbulbs popped. "It's him!" someone shouted. I ignored them. I walked straight to the private family room where the nurses said she was. I pushed the door open. My mother was sitting in a chair, holding a tissue. Her eyes were red. When she saw me, her face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. "You!" she shrieked. She stood up, shaking. "You murderer! You killed him! Are you happy? He's gone! My husband is gone because of your video!" She lunged at me, hammering her weak fists against my chest. "I hope you die!" she screamed. "I wish you had died in that snow!" I caught her wrists. I didn't squeeze hard, just enough to stop her. I pushed her back into the chair. "Sit down," I ordered. My voice was low, lethal. She sat, sobbing. Get out before I call the police." "The police are already here," I said, "but they're not interested in me. They might be interested in this, though." I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket, the printout of the insurance policy. I threw it on her lap. She looked at it. She froze. The sobbing stopped instantly. Her face went from red to ghost white. She looked up at me, and for the first time,
I saw the terror, real, primal terror. I know, I said. Mark, she stammered. 3 months before you kicked me out, I said, leaning in close. You bet against my life. You sent a 16-year-old boy into the Chicago winter without a coat, hoping I'd turn into a check for $1.5 million. It was your father, she hissed, her voice a desperate whisper. He made me. He was in debt. They were going to kill us. So you decided to kill me instead. We didn't kill you, she cried. You survived. I survived in spite of you, I corrected her. I survived because I am stronger than you ever were. But let's get one thing straight. You aren't grieving a husband tonight. You're grieving an accomplice. I straightened up and buttoned my coat. Here is what is going to happen, I said. You are going to bury him. You are going to play the sad widow. And then you are going to leave Chicago. You are going to sell the house, and you are going to disappear. Or what? She challenged, a glimmer of her old defiance returning. Or I give this document to the district attorney. Attempted murder, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, child endangerment. Even if the statute of limitations is tricky, I have enough money to tie you up in court until you die in a cell. She stared at me. She looked at the document. She knew I had won. The checkmate was absolute. Why? She whispered. Why didn't you just give us the money? We could have been a family again. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who gave birth to me, and I felt absolutely nothing. No hate, no love, just the emptiness of a dead star. Because, Mother, I said, walking to the door, I don't negotiate with terrorists. I walked out of the room. I walked past the cameras. I walked out of the hospital into the cool night air. It was snowing. Big, fat flakes drifting down from the sky. I stopped on the sidewalk and held out my hand. A snowflake landed on my palm and melted. 15 years ago, this snow tried to kill me. Tonight, it just felt like snow. I took a deep breath. The air was crisp, clean. My father was dead. My mother was exiled. The secret was out. I was alone. I got into my car. Where to, Mr. Sterling? My driver asked. Home, I said, and stop by a drive-thru. I want a burger. A burger, sir? Yeah, I smiled, looking at the city lights reflecting in the window. A double cheeseburger with extra bacon, no dog food. The car pulled away into the night. I am Mark Sterling. I am a monster. I am a survivor. And finally, for the first time in my life, I am free.
Thank you for staying with me until the end. How would you have acted in the protagonist's place? Write your thoughts in the comments. More fresh and controversial stories every day on my profile. Like and subscribe to this channel.